Hello, everyone. This is Evren Ozkaya. I am your host for Supply Chain Visit for Pharma podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, Dexter Tjoa, CEO of Tjoapack. And I know Dexter for almost 10 years now in the industry. So, Dexter, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Evren. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. You are joining us from, I believe, your headquarters in Netherlands, correct?
Yep, that's right. It is a very nice sunny day here today in Etteleur, the Netherlands. So yeah, I can't complain.
Yeah, perfect. So always enjoying having guests from around the world. So today we're going to hear about Tjoapack. But first, let's start with Dexter. Dexter, tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and then we can dive right in.
Okay. Well, hi everybody in the audience. So glad to meet you in this way. I am Dexter, and I'm CEO of Tjoapack. I've been involved within the pharmaceutical services industry for about 10 years or so now. All within packaging and supply chain for pharma. My background is in supply chain consultancy. Before that, though, at this point, minority of my career. And at university, I did mathematics originally. Yeah, what more is there to say?
So, Tjoapack is actually a well-established family business. It started as a family business back into 1989, correct? It's almost, getting closer to 40 years, and the father Joe started it, and now you're second generation. So, tell us about Tjoapack as a company and how you're positioning the company in the pharma industry.
Yeah, well, our track record is certainly serving us well. I mean, it is both daunting as well as exciting to take over a company that's been almost 40 years in existence, but at the same time leveraging this deep experience on pharmaceutical packaging, because that's what we've been doing for this whole period of time, is really focusing all of our service around the primary and secondary packaging of pharmaceutical products. We've been trying to stay somewhat niche over the course of our history. I mean, lots of our um, colleagues and competitors are, kind of going broadly, and the one-stop shop sort of solution are very popular over a while, but we've stayed quite niche and really focus on our expertise. So nowadays we have primary, secondary packaging of oral solid dose products, and the secondary packaging of injectable products as our core focus, and that's sort of it. We have a manufacturing location in the Netherlands. That's where I'm today, as I already said earlier, and one location in the United States in Tennessee. From there, we support mid-market pharma usually, but products that go all around the world. Obviously, US and Europe by geographic proximity, but markets can be in Africa, Asia, Australia, really anywhere.
Mhm. So for long time, like 30 plus years, you were in one location in your headquarters, the primary site. But then 3, 4 years ago, you decided to expand and you acquired another contract packager and moved into the United States market with a site in Tennessee. So what made you decide on that expansion?
Well, hmm. Okay, there's really two answers to this question, right? Like, I mean, we had plans about kind of expanding our platform and building a global presence. We've recognized that through client conversations that there's some level of need, particularly on our side, on the packaging side, for a global service provider in the segment that we're in. That there's not that many companies that have this sort of capability in the CDMO sector anyway, or at least would focus on packaging. Um, the second answer to the question is there was an opportunity on the market and we went for it. So but that maybe speaks more to timing rather than
Yeah.
the background to it. So why it happened 3 years ago is there was an opportunity, we went for it. And yeah, I don't regret it. wasn't always as rosy as it is today, but yeah, no, it's been good for us.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe you saw something, or maybe it was some partial coincidence, partial vision, and the market opportunity. But today we are living in a crazy, world of ups and downs for manufacturing sector. Like 5 years ago, when the COVID first hit, supply chain topic became a hot topic for the C-level in the board meetings. Why the supply chain doesn't work? Why are we seeing disruptions? There's no products on the shelves. Now it seems like because of the US government initiating this tariff and trade war, or I should say discussions, hopefully it's not going to be a all-out war. Now manufacturing is a topic on the C-level and the board meeting. So we tracked in the first couple of weeks since the announcement, $220 billion of announced investments from the major pharma companies. And these are only the top 12 that we could track, like J&J, Eli Lilly's, and Roche, Novartis, you name it. $220 billion of committed capital to build out manufacturing. So that's a number that has never been, this big.
Yeah, that's
I
a
mean,
lot of money.
as a company moving in with the US manufacturing already a few years ago, how do you think this would play out in the next 5-10 years for the US market?
Well, I mean, some reinvigorating in the manufacturing sector in pharma in the US is pretty good, I think. I mean, I look at the US as a now very familiar with the country, having been there many times, but still sort of outsider since, European or Dutch national and European national. And what was sort of striking to me in doing a sort of competitive landscape or client landscape analysis is that there's still a lot of manufacturing in Europe that our customers maintain. And in the US, that's been much sparser. Is certainly in the middle segment, it's all been outsourced to CDMOs, and obviously it's great for the CDMO market, great for us also. But whereas a pharma company may have a site in Europe somewhere and they don't have one in the US, so it's probably good. It's going to take a long time. And my personal issue with the kind of conversation is that, yeah, pharma supply chains are global, right? There's no way that you can do everything in one country. And
Mm-hmm.
that's sort of where it's going a little bit off the rails. Is like, yeah, there's no way everything is coming back. It's
Mm-hmm.
great some stuff is, but you need to maintain the global supply chain overview.
Yeah. And one thing that is really surprising to me, especially having been to so many pharma manufacturing plants and also non-pharma, plants as well in the consumer business, there's clearly an efficiency issue going on in the pharma manufacturing. Like we are not
Oh,
getting the most out of our capacities installed already. So, one question, of course, it doesn't even make sense to build new factories when we are not getting the full throughput from our current factories. The second question might be, does it make sense to make everything in the US? Maybe the US market products, sure, but not necessarily shipping it to Africa and Asia and even Europe, because Europe has installed capacity. So that's a really an interesting trend. So to put on top of this, the most recent, actually, we are here. I don't even have the news, but over the weekend there was a news coming out from the President Trump's office that they're gonna sign a new executive order to determine some sort of a price reduction for U.S. pharmaceutical drugs, up to 30 to 70% or more, which is kind of a big shock to the system. I don't know how it will play out, but
yeah.
The whole industry is built in a certain level of prices, and your investment maybe decisions are based on, there's actually good price in this market, it's worth the investment. So how does these two things go together? On one hand, we have we want to build more, we want to make more in the US and build manufacturing infrastructure. On the other hand, let's cut the prices in half. How these two go hand in hand, or does it?
Yeah, I don't think it does, right? I mean, it's just, you kind of justify this investments based on a certain market dynamic and then sort of, cut your feet right under you by making some sort of announcement like this. or a planned announcement. I don't know if it's been officially announced at when we're talking, but yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Is that the uncertainty of whatever is happening and some sort of conflicting objectives, I suppose, that are. Yeah, it's not clear what the U.S. government wants to achieve with the pharmaceutical sector. Do they want to bring back more manufacturing know-how, or do they want to get more cost-effective operations? And there's some argumentation you can make it that's both achievable. I mean, it's not without beyond the realm of the possible, but certainly the upheavals and it's not possible to just all drugs are now 70% cheaper. So that's not going to happen. It's not possible. And
well, not across the board for sure. Maybe there's some nuances in the announcement that target specific drugs. Who knows? But it's definitely some not necessarily going together at this stage. Like build more capacity and also cut the prices significantly. So we'll find out. But let's talk what we know, what you know the best. Like how CDMO businesses are standing to gain or lose from this? How do you see like the main value proposition of a contract manufacturer, contract packager, regardless of all these ups and downs and trends? Like why does the industry exist?
Yeah, I mean, the industry, the CDMO sector was born out of being able to obviously leverage capacity in a more effective way than pharma companies all individually could. And then I think anything that puts price or downward pressure onto pricing ultimately would be good for the CDMOs that can actually manufacture at those levels that are required. I mean, it's a pain in the ass to manage those plans, I'm sure, and you could question why pharma companies want to keep doing it. Yeah, I mean, the trend for a little bit here has been CDMOs with more specialty focus, right? There was an era of one-stop shop CDMO solutions really growing, and they are not going anywhere. I mean, they're big and well-established players, but with the new drug products coming on market and being approved, we do see a rise of a bit more specialty-oriented service providers. And I think that's where we fit into. We're a specialty service provider, and I think we're having somewhat of a moment on kind of expertise managing multiple suppliers in a supply chain that really are all good, specialized in one particular component of the manufacturing chain. That I think that's continuing on an upward trend despite all the noise.
So if there's cost pressures in the market, it's only going to be more business for the CDMOs because you can make it more efficiently. You leverage and consolidate the volume into the capacity, get more throughput out of the plants. And it's good for the end patients as well as the pharma companies because they may not necessarily make it at a lower cost than their CDMO partners in most cases. Some cases, maybe they do it because they don't have the capability. Maybe they pay more for those.
I certainly think so. I mean, it will be within the U.S. market, particularly domestic CDMOs. I think there will be a question of those that will be able to meet a new price paradigm if such a thing emerges, because there's, even within the CDMO market is, there's a bit more, meat on the bone generally in the service provisions versus some other markets out there, and that will take some adjusting if there's really going to be pressure on those type of services that are servicing U.S. companies or U.S. based products, but those that are operating very well and keeping up with the latest in automation and digitization and things that can field superior results in both reliability of supply and quality, then I think there's a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, in most cases, big pharma, big generics, they're already more and more outsourcing, and maybe majority of their volumes to third parties. So with these pressures and costs, and that may even increase, more partnerships, more collaboration with the third parties, external partners. So thinking about the industry trends, of course, there's a lot more emphasis on what is out in front of us, what Donald Trump is talking about, what is being announced in terms of on the surface. But what do you think is one or two silent trend in pharma that nobody's talking about, but you see that it's going to be something visible in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
Oh, that's a very difficult question, especially on the 2 to 5 years. I don't know. It'll tend to take a little bit longer in in the pharma world. But if I have to answer something concretely, I think the trends that are on the way are continuing. There's more and more niche products out there. Pharma is looking for more specialized, more targeted medication. I think that's just keeps on going. Yeah, I'm not even talking about truly personalized medicine. Obviously, that's also a strain, but just even more broad targeted medication is becoming more a niche. And that is changing, the CDMO landscape again, going to a bit more niche providers rather than, one-stop shop solutions, particularly as volumes start going down, batch sizes are, ever sort of decreasing. I think that's probably from, our point of view in our business, kind of the main trend. Since we care mostly about supply chain and logistics. I'm not a scientist, so I can't say anything about actual drug administration and delivery inside the body and techniques in there. But from the supply chain point of view, yeah, everything is getting a little bit more niche and complex in that sense.
Yeah. So which tells me that as things get more complex, as you have smaller batch sizes, more changeovers, then you need to increase your skills in handling this new reality, right? I mean, this has been a trend, sure, like lower and lower batch sizes. But if you take it to extreme, you're talking about batch size of one person, one medication, one dose. And it's very, very challenging to manage that. So besides that, let's say thinking of the manufacturing in general, packaging in general, what do you think would be your top challenges to tackle in this short to midterm horizon? What would you, if you had the magic wand, what would you want to eliminate in terms of inefficiency problems from manufacturing and packaging?
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly in the short and midterm, really continuing to build a skilled labor force is continue to be challenging. We've seen that ever since COVID happened. The labor market sort of imploded in on itself, or at least in terms of available skilled labor, and good quality labor has obviously always been a challenge. But maintaining skill base, having people that are learning and adapting as technology is evolving that we're adopting internally. It's certainly where we spend a lot of time, and I think that's still going to be the case for us over the next 5 years. Is machines cost a lot of money, but most of the time that we invest in the business is in talent development, and that's not going to change. So if I had a magic wand to say, help me with this challenge, this would be, more automation, obviously, flexible automation in particular. There's still a lot of processes that are either on the administrative side, sort of semi-manual, as well as on the actual activity also. But with small batch sizes and lots of changeovers, any automation solution needs to be very flexible, capable of handling many products, many configurations, and that that still has certainly in pharma still has ways to go.
Yeah, no, that's great. You mentioned the people side, and I know you invested both your personal time as well as company funds to upskill your labor force, right? So maybe you want to talk about some of those learnings and successes that you achieved, because this is a challenge not just in the US, but in Europe, everywhere. Like finding skilled labor is one challenge. Keeping them
Yeah.
on staff is another challenge. If they leave, finding replacement, ramping up new people is a challenge, and all the in a way you're paying a significant amount of cost and wages, of course, to maintain that capacity. So, but what was your, let's say, learnings, what you did about this, what you're still working on?
Well, the problem for us really started after COVID. I think as I'm sure all the listener are familiar with, is sort of reset how labor works, how people think about absenteeism and things, and it's just something shifted, right? I don't know what exactly, but something changed. So we started to experience higher absenteeism and much more turnover. I think people's question, do I still want to do this job or not? And just so that really started to cause a lot of problems. To be honest, it took a little while for us to really get down to what is going on, right? That took, probably close to a year really to get our, well, we were hiring people and then people were leaving again, and we're just getting into a vicious cycle. What
It's
we
like a
did in
hamster
the
wheel.
end,
You keep
yeah, as you
running this.
start going, yeah, starts getting harder and harder to get out. But
Yeah.
what we did, and we recognized, like, look, okay, we need to do two things. So one is what does the company need is, we want motivated, high skilled people. What do the employees want? They want a good or great place to work. They want to have fun at work and feel like they mean that what they do is meaningful. And we focused on both those parts. So we redesigned our training programs, and I'm talking now specifically for our machine operators. We redesigned what training programs look like, how we train people, and how we assess what kind of skill set people have and don't have, and how we teach essentially. And then at the same time, okay, well, we clearly sketched this is what career path looks like at Tjoapack. Your day one all the way until this is where you could be 24 months from now, and after that you could go specialized quality engineering management. There's a sort of not entirely set in stone, but there's
Career path, yeah.
visibility for 3 to 5 years of what you could achieve working for us. And we said, everybody, no matter how long you've worked here at the company, if you've been with us for almost 40 years or one day, everybody is going to go through the training program from zero. And that helped a lot with motivation. I said that you quickly discover the people that want to be there if you tell you have to go and retrain. So that was, it was hugely successful. We really able to get people into the right positions for them based on their skill set. We actually recently, just like last week, finished our annual employee engagement survey, and we improved 10 points on our favorable NPS score from the employees versus last year. So, very good. And, obviously it's easy for me to talk about, take credit for it, but the team behind it did a phenomenal job at executing and doing all the work to get all these people on board and trained. And it's that has worked very well for us.
So that's maybe a good leeway into, like, part of keeping people motivated and giving them purpose is also giving them tools and new capabilities to be more productive, to make a better impact. So how are you thinking about the digitalization aspect of how people work day to day and how that landscape is changing? Is this a role as well that needs to play into your longer term employee retention and motivation and productivity topic?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I believe people don't want to do jobs that are boring. And usually the stuff that you would like to be automated is a lot of the paperwork, administrative processes and things, or at least that lend themselves to be automated anyway, and make work more varied and more fun. And that's, yeah, it's important to think about those as you design roles, or think about what what your company is going to do in terms of next steps in investing in automation or digitization technologies. That there's a lot of tools out there, obviously, and buying a tool off the shelf might not necessarily get you what you want if you don't know what you want, or really from the beginning. So what we spend a lot of time on is sort of trying to figure out, what does the ideal, machine operator, or what do they spend their time on ideally? And it's okay, what are the barriers to them doing it? And then it's okay, well, they have to look over the batch documentation, and it's sort of, mostly digital, but there's still a part that is on paper. So how do we get that bit into the digital system that it's more seamless? It's on that kind of level that we've been engaging on, to figure out what we need and / want.
Yeah, so basically the operator experience, like how is the day in the life of an operator? What percentage digital, what percent on paper? What are the roadblocks? What do they like doing? What do they not like doing? So interesting, very, very insightful
and
to think, operator first. Yeah.
And what they would ideally like it to look like.
Yeah. So involving the operators as well in this process of redesigning their work.
It's very important to have people involved that are actually doing the work. I mean, obviously that's not something new, but no, they bring great ideas, often the best ideas on solving the actual problems facing, facing them in their work.
Yes, excellent. So digital, from the CEO of a CDMO company, where do you think digital will have the biggest impact in your manufacturing operations or supply chain operations?
Oh man, where? I mean, it can have a lot of effect everywhere, so that's why I'm hesitating and answer the question outright, since, especially within the pharma sector, is still somewhat behind overall. For us specifically, where we are on our journey, I think the biggest impact right now in the next, kind of year or so would be on everything related to collaboration with our clients and partners in the supply chain. Pharma is pretty hopeless in sharing information, and everything happening via email and things like that. Yeah, that there's no way to evolve beyond, beyond just transactional relationships. So we are, we would see a lot of benefit to help streamline, our processes there. And that's what we're sort of trying to work on, and with selected partners, obviously, that are, want to move with us, and, trying to find alternative solutions. And either it's fully fledged system to system integrations to somewhat sort of middle segments, try to do some sort of shared communication platform that's not email or something else. We're trying to kind of pilot some stuff at the moment. But yeah, that's really for us kind of top of mind. And I don't, on the shop floor, thinking for us as packagers, we do lots of SKUs, almost 3,000 different ones. Automation continues to be somewhat of a challenge because of high variability. So not that it's not possible, but that is sort of the complexity of sort of the strain there. Obviously anything related to the register, the batch documentation and things, going from a digital system to an intelligent digital system that can help drive some decisions, as well as have our people, act upon exception would be a next step. But we're probably a little further away from that than we would like.
So you're saying first, like looking outside the company, collaboration is key because there's still a lot of mails and fax machines. Even I've heard in number of transactions, but like trying to go there into a more collaborative. But then the challenge, of course, is it's many to many relationship, and there's no one platform. There's no one standard. We have been in projects where both the manufacturer and the CDMO has SAP, but then they were sending over PDF files for purchase orders and acknowledge over email. So that is a very well-known problem. I'm glad you highlighted that. And on the shop floor, what I'm hearing is, complexity is there. So automating is necessary, but difficult. But also, just for the sake of digitization, it's not just like a paper on glass. It has to be more intelligent to help with the decision making. It's not just like, okay, instead of filling it out a piece of paper, now I'm filling it out on an iPad. But like, what is the decision? What is the exception here? What should I need to focus on? So those are good insights.
Yeah, I mean, we are at the stage that we have the paper on the iPad, right?
Yeah.
That's maybe doing ourselves somewhat of a disservice, right? There's some like thought put behind it, but to get to the next stage of where, okay, getting the system to really work for the people that I'm convinced still more can be done, but it's it's a little complicated, I guess.
But I guess tying this to the initial discussion we had on the trends and the ups and downs, and companies are now being disrupted with all these different tariffs coming down the pipeline and potentially price reductions. So it all points towards more need for more automation, need for more efficiency, need for being more competitive, more agile, isn't it? Like, if you're not already thinking about it, like if you're thinking of like, okay, I'll be staying in my 80s, 90s processes, or even 2000s on paper, I don't think there's going to be much room in the CDMO business for you, especially CDMOs are being very competitive with each other, correct?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, it is really about taking a leadership role in the market on what is possible in automation. I think if you want to win in the space, that's very important.
Yeah, no, that's good. So maybe we can spend a few minutes on your role or the role of the CEO, like in a very competitive market with lots of things happening every day, every week. How do you see the role of the CEO? Is it more the visionary, the goal setter? Is it down in the trenches and doing execution? Is it somewhere in between? Is it more, transformation, or is it more inspiration? How do you see yourself or the role of the CEO ideally? Maybe a challenging question, but I like to challenge people on this podcast to get the insight come out.
It is a tricky question. I mean, it's somewhat company dependent. I believe, right? What is the CEO's role? Is in a lot of ways everything and nothing at all. I feel like I can depend on my team, and that's sort of been my number one priority. Is just like a good solid team that can work and be empowered, and they don't need me to achieve the goals of the business, but at the same time, as the CEO, you do need to be able to still understand the company. So I don't think it's a little I can't think of the right wording, but besides, I take some level of pride in being able to know how we do changeovers to some degree. Like, don't quiz me on it because I don't know all the detailed steps, but I sort of can have a conversation with a client about it. And as a level of detail knowledge is really good. And if you want to play and be a digital leader as a company, the CEO needs to go first. That's people will need to be guided by that. This is actually important. It can't come from a chief technology officer or chief information officer or whatever. It is that, if it's not carried by this CEO, this need for transformation, and I don't think you're going to be, well, who am I to say if you're not going to be successful? But you're missing a key component of support, is just general buy-in of the mission of the company. Yeah. Well, I've been CEO now for 5 years, which started to tick on a little bit in experience maybe, but it's like I'm still kind of reinventing the role as we grow. When I took the helm, the company was one site, and we were like 150 people or so, and now with two sites, we're coming up to 100 million revenue and 450 to 500 people employed. So the role changes as the company grows, and
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, it's different now.
Absolutely. I can relate at a much smaller scale, of course, than I was the CEO of a person, a company of one, just myself, and growing into
Well,
50,
you did
60, 70.
Yeah, I mean, that's the portion that my dad did, and I don't know if I could start something. So I deeply admire you on starting something from scratch is very difficult. So that's the
Appreciate
most
it.
difficult.
No, it is. But what one thing you said resonates. It changes. Like the role of the CEO changes based on the journey and where you are with the company as you build. I think the most important thing is the people, like developing the people, finding those leaders who are growing with you, changing with you, take on different roles with you, and you can rely more onto them, and then they can rely more on you for something else, right? So, I mean, we are now
I
both
agree.
funded companies, right? Like, on the investment side, now we have board members that we need to report back to every month. So that role definitely I didn't have that role before. Now I have it. I need to report on the progress, the targets, annual goal setting, but then orchestrating with the team, where the team does most of the thing. But one thing that you also said I really like, which I want all the other CEOs to hear: digital transformation is not a CIO's or a technical officer's job. It needs to start from the top. It needs to start with the CEO. The CEO needs to say, this is the future. We want to be a digital leader. Therefore, I am supporting initiatives along this direction and in line with our business goals, not for the sake of digitization, because there's 100 different shiny objects that you can go for. But what are those things that you really want in terms of capabilities? And you need to show the leadership to get there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. That's obviously aligned with the business goals, as you said, but that setting that vision, if you want to be a leader in the space, and definitely, and being able to be versed in the material somewhat. Like, I'm not a technical expert by no means, but able to explain to your team of leaders as to why this is important is that's crucial, and sometimes can be quite difficult. It was like
absolutely. So no, that's great. So let's say, to wrap up, a young professional approaches you and say, I want to be like you one day. I want to lead a company, or I want to be a senior executive at a pharma company or a contract manufacturer. Where do you think they should think about growing and building those skills? What are those top important skills that you would advise people to start developing so they can be really successful in this job?
Well, stay away from packaging. I'll say it's point one. It's pretty unforgiving of a space. It's an unforgiving segment within the CDMO space. I mean, I think you said it earlier, Evren. Really, it's all about people. So, obviously, if starting out as a young professional, getting the opportunity to lead people, build a team, and embrace that, and accept that there's lots of stuff that you don't know, and have the guts to sort of go for it and be able to take risks and see what happens. That's important. there's, in the end of the day, as the CEO, you have to stand in front of the board and shareholders and say, yeah, we're going to grow this company and I'm going to invest your money in these and these things. And that, you don't have a glass bowl to know what happens in 5 years or 10 years. But you have to say, yeah, I will return that money and build value. So you need to know how to take risks and you need to know how to lead people. I think that's, if we sum it up, those are, find opportunities where you can do both of those things that will help tremendously.
Except the fact that you don't know everything is, I think, a good advice, that there's so much to know, and including all the way down to changeovers and all the forecasting and the crystal balling into the future. That is, in this year, I actually lost all my confidence in my abilities to forecast anything, because like I did my grad school, my PhD on forecasting and demand management, and like there's no way anyone can be successful in forecasting. It's it's a doomed practice with all these changes happening in the market. So I think the only thing is like just be open to learning, open to changing, digitizing, automating, doing things faster. And I think the young generation is a lot more skilled and open to these type of changes than we were in our early beginnings. Now maybe it's even reason to be very hopeful and positive about the future, because they're digital natives. The new generation is coming actually AI native. Like we didn't have AI up until like the conversational generative AI up until 2.5 years ago. Now everybody is like finding an answer so quickly. Like, you don't need a day to figure things. You don't need a week to figure things out. You just ask, you get the answer. So that's superpower. And young generation knows how to use it.
Yeah, much better than I mean, I'm not that old, but I started to feel that like, oh, I don't really understand this technology. I know I understand what my dad feels like, or it's like keeping up with the kids, so to say. It's moves fast, and certainly the real digital native generation that's up and coming, and I'm sure they'll think all sorts of weird and wonderful ways to use the technology for working smarter.
Well, more reasons to be optimistic about the future, and more reasons to also give way to the younger generations to step up and take leadership positions faster. Maybe you don't have to be 50, 60 years old to be an executive. Just have an impact, show that you can take risks, and show ownership, and opportunities are plenty, and there's a bigger need out there in the market to take those type of roles. And I'm glad that we had this conversation where, to sum up, we mentioned about the people development, retraining. Maybe all of us need to be retrained every year, by the way, at this speed of change. We talked about dynamic nature of the pharma industry, the challenging business in being a CDMO, but also I guess it's rewarding for you to also make those bets and investments to grow. And congratulations on your growth. But this was a very fun, cozy conversation. Dexter, I really appreciate your time and the insights. I'm glad that we did this.
Thank you, Evren. I enjoyed it too.
Thanks a lot.